I'd like to give you a warm welcome back to this guy's garage. This is going to be a new series on Autobody 101, getting back to basics. So I decided to come up with this series. It's the community college series on Autobody 101. So we're going to be starting at the very basic operation of sanding out a scratch. It's going to consist of two things: theory, why we're doing a thing, and practice, what we're doing. So don't be afraid to give it the old community college try, and we're going to dive into this coming up.
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
So here we are. We're in episode 1. The first basic operation we're going to undertake is sanding. I encourage everybody that's going to take part, because this is a community effort, to ask questions, because questions can lead to further videos. I don't want to assume where you're at in the learning. I don't want to make any assumptions, because when I assume, it makes an asset of you and me. Never be afraid to ask a question. The only stupid question is the one not asked. So I'm going to show you a picture of the scratch that we're going to be back sanding out today. This is what a scratch looks like at surface level. So the wrong thing to do will be just take a putty or a filler or primer and try to cover up the scratch, because you'll have these jagged edges here which will show up in your paint. There's an old saying, it's in the prep. When you're machine sanding this, you want to keep your machine as flat as possible. And basically what you're doing is you want to sand all the layers to a feather edge. So to get this feather edge, you're going to need to start with the sandpaper. It's going to have to be a fine sandpaper if you're just talking about a paint scratch. This is a narrow focus on a paint scratch. So we're going to start with a 400 grit sandpaper. There'll be links in the description for the products that I'm using. So what 400 grit sandpaper will do is it will knock off this hard edge for one. But we're going to start with 400. But to get to paint, we're going to have to move up to 600. Our goal is to create a feathered edge. To create a feathered edge, when you're sanding, you're going to take notice of layers. The wider that layer between coats, between your primer that's on the bottom of the surface, because every vehicle's primed, every part is primed. So you're going to see your primer coat, you're going to see your base coat, you're going to see your clear coat. So that's bare minimum. What you're going to see is 3 layers on a scratch when you sand it out. To have a scratch that it's not noticeable when you paint it, you want to have 2 inches showing between layers. And I'll show you that when we're doing our practice. So 400 grit will get you a 1-inch feather between layers. We're going to move up to 600 grit because we want a 2-inch feather between layers. So that's enough talk. Let's have a little bit of action. So what we have here is your basic scratch. So we want to back sand this out. And by the time we're done, by the time we break through all our layers and feather edge it out properly, it's going to be a big area. If you don't back sand the area big enough, it'll be noticeable through the paint. So we're looking at where this is at. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sanding right to this edge, and I'm going to be breaking the layers back to create a feather edge, a transition. So the wider our transition area, the smoother the repair is going to look. sander moving. Don't stay in one spot too long. So this is what you're looking for. Our scratch is gone. We have our 1/2 inch to 1 inch layers between coats. Base coat, this bumper was painted before, so we're dealing with factory color, primer, base coat, clear coat. So we're back sanding through 4 layers. Alright, so this is as far as we're going to be able to take our 400 for a transition. So now we have to move up to 600 to make this, to prep this for paint. See how I'm holding the paper? I'm sanding with the whole leading edge of my palm. Never use your fingers to sand. It may look like I'm using my fingers, but I'm using the palm of my hand. Let's dry that off and have a look at it. You can see here where the area is flat, we have that 2-inch transition between our layers. Here, here, and here. On the round, we have less of a transition, but it's the transition that it needs. It's an inch between layers. But because I'm on a convex curve and not a flat, and when you run your hand on it, you cannot feel it. So this now is prepped for primer. So thanks again for following along with this first video in the Community College Series, Autobody 101. Never be afraid to ask a question in the comment section down below. Every comment will be answered. There is a fair bit of expense involved in the making of these videos, so I would encourage you to share, like, and subscribe. So thanks again for stopping by this guy's garage. You can hit that subscribe button right there. That's the best way to help us out. You can watch another video right around here, and there will be a link to the Autobody 101 series here.